The smell of welding metal still clung to David's work clothes when he climbed the stairs to his apartment. 17 hours on the construction site today, fixing hull panels on the orbital station circling Earth. His hands ached, his back screamed, and all he wanted was food and sleep. He punched in his door code and stepped onto the small balcony first, like always. Fresh air, even recycled station air, helped clear his head after a long shift. That's when he saw it, that a small creature sat in the corner of his balcony, pressed against the railing. Black scales caught the light from Earth below. Golden eyes stared at him without blinking. It made a soft chirping sound, almost like a bird but deeper. David froze. The station didn't allow pets. Nobody kept animals up here except for the research labs, and those were secured behind locked doors. This thing looked like someone's exotic pet had escaped. Maybe a lizard? But the scales seemed wrong. Too smooth. Too dark. "Hey there, little one," David said quietly. He crouched down, keeping his distance. "You lost." The creature chirped again. It tilted its head, studying him. David noticed how thin it looked. Ribs showed under those strange scales. When had it last eaten? He backed into his apartment and grabbed the grilled fish from his small fridge. His dinner. He'd planned to have it with rice, make it stretch for tonight and tomorrow's breakfast. But this creature looked starving. David returned to the balcony and broke off a piece of fish. He tossed it gently toward the creature. It pounced on the food instantly, swallowing it whole. The chirping got louder, almost excited. David smiled despite his exhaustion. "Hungry, huh?" "Yeah, I know the feeling." He fed it the rest of the fish piece by piece. The creature crept closer with each bite until it sat right at his feet. Up close, David saw details he'd missed. The scales were warm, not cold like a lizard's. Small bumps ran along its spine. And when it got excited about the food, tiny wisps of smoke came from its nostrils. "What are you?" David whispered. The creature finished the last piece and looked up at him. Those golden eyes held an intelligence that made David uncomfortable. This wasn't just an animal. Something about it felt different. Special, his comm unit buzzed. A message from his sister Hannah. "Hey, big brother, just finished my anatomy exam. Think I passed. Call when you can. Love you." David smiled. Hannah, medical school. The reason he worked double shifts and lived in this tiny apartment. The reason every credit mattered. He typed back a quick reply. "Proud of you. Talk tomorrow." The creature made a sound, softer this time, almost questioning. David looked down at it and sighed. "I should report you. There are rules about animals on the station." But even as he said it, he knew he wouldn't. What if they took it to a lab? What if they heard it trying to figure out what it was? "How about you come back tomorrow? I'll save you some food." The creature seemed to understand. It chirped once, then scurried to the edge of the balcony. For a terrifying second, David thought it would jump off into space. Instead, it squeezed through a gap in the railing and disappeared into the station's maintenance crawlways. David stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty balcony. Had that really just happened? He went inside, locked the door, and collapsed onto his bed. Tomorrow he'd figure out what that thing was. Tonight, he just needed sleep. But the next evening, he bought extra fish at the station market. Just in case. The creature returned as the shift change bells rang through the station. David had barely sat down with his dinner when he heard the chirping. It waited on the balcony, those golden eyes watching him through the glass door. "Back already." David opened the door. "Guess you like the fish." He'd done research during his lunch break. Searched every database he could access. Exotic pets, escaped lab animals, alien species registered with the station. Nothing matched. Whatever this creature was, it wasn't in any official records. David fed it half his dinner again. The creature ate quickly, then did something unexpected. It climbed into his lap and curled up, emanating warmth like a small furnace. The purring sound it made vibrated through his chest. "You're affectionate, aren't you?" David stroked its scales carefully. They felt like smooth stone warmed by the sun. "Can't keep calling you creature. Need a name." The thing tried to burrow into his jacket pocket, its small body barely fitting halfway in. David laughed, the sound surprising him. When was the last time he laughed? "Pocket. I'll call you Pocket. Too big to actually fit in there, but you keep trying." Pocket chirped happily, as if approving the name. Days turned into weeks. Pocket came every evening without fail. David started buying better food. Real meat, not the protein paste he usually ate. He told himself it wasn't expensive, just a few extra credits. Hannah didn't need to know he was skipping meals to feed a strange creature. But Pocket gave him something he hadn't realized he needed. Company. Someone to talk to besides the other exhausted workers at the construction site. Someone who listened when he complained about his supervisor or worried about Hannah's tuition payments. She wants to specialize in surgery, David told Pocket one evening. They sat on the balcony, watching Earth rotate below. That's another 3 years of school. I don't know if I can afford it. Pocket nuzzled against his hand. Smoke puffed from her nostrils, warm but not burning. You're weird, you know that. David smiled. But I'm glad you showed up. His neighbor, old Mrs. Patterson, almost caught them once. She knocked on his door to borrow sugar. David shoved Pocket into his bedroom, just in time. Through the closed door, he heard soft chirping. Mrs. Patterson looked at him strangely. You got a pet in there. Just the ventilation system, David lied. Makes weird noises sometimes. After she left, he locked the balcony door and made Pocket promise to be quieter. Not that she understood promises, but she seemed to get the idea. Making softer sounds after that point 2 months in, David couldn't imagine his life without Pocket anymore. The small creature had become part of his routine. Wake up, work, come home, feed Pocket, talk to Pocket, sleep, repeat. He built her a small shelter on the balcony using scrap materials from the construction site. Waterproof, insulated with a soft bed inside. Pocket loved it. There you go, David said proudly. Your own little house. Pocket explored every corner, then curled up inside. She looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes and made a sound that David could have sworn meant thank you. That night, the news played in the background while David ate dinner. Something about increased military presence in orbit. A dragon fleet searching for something. David barely paid attention. Dragon politics didn't affect construction workers like him. Pocket fell asleep in his lap, small body rising and falling with each breath. David stroked her scales and made a quiet promise. Whatever happens, I'll take care of you. I promise. He had no idea how much that promise would cost him. The Imperial flagship Darkwing cut through space like a blade, its massive hull reflecting starlight across its obsidian surface. Inside the command chamber, Queen Sereth paced in her humanoid form, each step clicking against the metal floor with barely contained fury. 3 weeks. Her daughter had been missing for 3 weeks. Still nothing. Her voice carried the edge of a mother's desperation mixed with a ruler's authority. General Rothack bowed his head, his own scales darker with shame. The scans continue, my queen. We have searched every vessel, every station, every settlement within 3 systems. No trace of the princess. Sereth's hands clenched. In this form, she looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face that could pass for their species if not for the golden eyes and the faint shimmer of scales along her neck. But underneath that civilized appearance, she was still a dragon. Still an apex predator whose child had vanished. Expand the search radius, she commanded. Again, my queen, the humans grow nervous. They believe our presence is aggressive. Their military has started mobilizing defense grids. Let them mobilize. Sereth's eyes flashed with inner fire. I will tear apart every human structure in this system if it means finding Lissa. Rothack hesitated. He had served the queen for 3 centuries. He knew when to push and when to stay silent. This was not a time for silence. The humans claim they have not seen her. Their authorities have cooperated with every search. Perhaps we should consider that the princess might have left this system entirely. No, Sereth's voice went cold. She was fascinated by them, the small ones. She kept asking questions about their cities, their customs. She wanted to see them up close. The queen's shoulders sagged slightly. I should have paid more attention. Should have realized her curiosity would lead her into danger. The memory played in Sereth's mind like a cruel loop. They had been conducting diplomatic negotiations with the human government. Standard procedure. Establishing trade routes. Discussing territorial boundaries. Lissa had been there. A young hatchling barely 3 centuries old. Still a child by dragon standards. The humans had brought gifts. Simple things. Art, music, samples of their culture. Lissa had been mesmerized. She'd never seen beings so small create such intricate things. Dragons built with fire and claw. Humans built with patience and precision. Mother, may I explore their station? Lissa had asked. After the negotiations, dear one, stay close. But children, dragon or otherwise, rarely listened. Sometime during the lengthy political discussions, Lissa had slipped away from her guards. She'd wanted to see the humans in their natural habitat, wanted to understand them better. She never returned. Sereth shifted to her true form, her body expanding until she filled half the command chamber. Wings scraped against the ceiling. Her tail coiled around support pillars. This was what she truly was. Massive, powerful, ancient, and completely helpless to find her child. Dragons do not lose their hatchlings, she said, smoke curling from her nostrils. We are apex predators. Our young are precious. We guard them with our lives. How did I fail her? You did not fail, my queen, Rothack said softly. The princess is clever and curious. Two traits she inherited from you. We will find her. A communication officer approached, keeping a respectful distance from the queen's massive form. My queen, the human station administrator requests another meeting. He says their people are frightened. Ships are leaving orbit. Trade is disrupting. I care nothing for their trade, Sereth growled. But she knew politics, knew that pushing the humans too hard might lead to war. And war would not help find Lissa. Very well, arrange the meeting. But make it clear, we will not leave until my daughter is found. She shifted back to humanoid form. It was easier to negotiate with humans when she didn't tower over them like a mountain. They found her true form intimidating. Good. They should be intimidated. Administrator Williams arrived an hour later, flanked by security guards. He was old for a human, gray hair and lined face. He looked tired. Your Majesty, I understand your concern for your daughter, but my people are panicking. Your military presence is seen as hostile. We need some assurance that you're not preparing for invasion. Invasion. Sereth's laugh was bitter. Administrator, if I wanted to invade, your stations would already be ash. I'm searching for my child. Nothing more. We've opened every facility to your scans, given you access to our security footage, questioned everyone who was present during your last visit. No one has seen a young dragon. Then you are not looking hard enough. William sighed. Or perhaps she left the system. Young ones wander. It's in their nature. Maybe she went looking for adventure elsewhere. You do not understand dragon nature, Rothack interjected. Our hatchlings bond with their parents. They do not simply wander away and survive alone. She would have tried to return to us, unless something prevented her. You think someone is holding her captive? Williams looked genuinely concerned. Your Majesty, I assure you, we would never condone such an action. If anyone on our stations is taking your daughter, we will find them and prosecute them to the fullest extent. Sereth studied the human. He seemed sincere. Humans were difficult to read. Their faces showed emotion, but their words often hid truth. Dragons were simpler. Strength was truth. Power was honesty. I will give you 3 more days, Sereth said finally. 3 days to search your stations again. If my daughter is not found, I will conduct the search myself. Personally, do you understand what that means? Williams paled slightly. Yes, Your Majesty. I understand. After he left, Sereth returned to the observation window. Earth hung below, blue and green and deceptively peaceful. Somewhere on that world or its surrounding stations, her daughter lived, or had lived. The thought of finding Lissa's body instead of her living child made Sereth's heart clench. She is alive, Rothack said quietly. I feel it. David had just finished his shift when the emergency alerts started blaring through the station. Code red. All personnel to secure locations. No explanation given. His comm unit buzzed with messages from coworkers. Dragons on level 3. They're searching apartments. Get somewhere safe. David's blood went cold. Dragons. Searching. He looked at the time. Pocket would be arriving any minute now for her evening meal. He had to get home. Had to keep her safe. He ran through the corridors, dodging panicked residents. Security personnel shouted at him to get to a shelter, but David ignored them. His apartment was only 2 more levels up. He could make it. The elevator wasn't working. Emergency lockdown. David took the stairs 3 at a time, his lungs burning. His hand throbbed where he'd injured it last week. Didn't matter. Nothing mattered except getting a pocket. Level 5. Level 6. Almost there, he burst onto his floor and stopped dead. The hallway was filled with armored dragons, massive creatures that made the ceiling look low. They were checking each apartment systematically, their claws leaving marks on doors and walls. Misses. Patterson stood outside her apartment, shouting at them. You have no right. This is private property. I'm calling my lawyer. The dragons ignored her. David's apartment was at the end of the hall. He could see more dragons gathered there. One of them, larger than the others, stood directly in front of his door. Its scales were darker, almost black, with golden patterns running along its spine. His comm buzzed. A message from Mrs. Patterson, sent moments before. David, they're at your door. So they detected something. Where are you? Too late. David started walking toward his apartment anyway. Maybe he could explain. Maybe they would listen. Maybe Pocket had already escaped through the maintenance tunnels. The large dragon turned as he approached. Golden eyes locked onto him. Eyes that looked painfully familiar. The same color as Pocket's eyes. That is my apartment, David said, his voice steadier than he felt. I need to get inside. One of the armored dragons moved to block him. Stay back, human. This is official Imperial business. It's my home. I have rights. The large dragon shifted. Its form shimmered and condensed until a humanoid figure stood there instead. Female, elegant, with those same golden eyes. She wore clothing that looked like it cost more than David's entire year's salary. You live here. Her voice was cold. You are the one who resides in this dwelling? Yes. Look, whatever you're searching for, I don't have it. I just work construction. I don't have anything valuable. The Dragon Queen, because that's what she had to be based on the way others deferred to her, stared at him. We are not searching for valuables, human. We are searching for my daughter. David's mind raced. Daughter. Dragon daughter. Poquito no. Oh no, no, no. The queen must have seen something in his face because her expression shifted. You know something? Tell me. Now. I don't know anything about a missing dragon, David said, which was technically true. He hadn't known Pocket was a dragon. Hadn't known she was anyone's daughter, let alone royalty. I live alone. Just me. The thermal scans indicate otherwise. The queen stepped closer. She was shorter in this form, barely taller than David, but somehow more intimidating than when she'd been a massive dragon. There is a hatchling heat signature coming from inside your dwelling. David's comm buzzed again. This time, it was an automated alert. Building security requesting he open his apartment for inspection. Refusal would result in forced entry that he didn't have a choice. If he refused, they'd break down the door anyway. At least if he opened it, maybe he could control the situation somehow. Fine, I'll open it. But I'm telling you, there's nothing inside except my stuff. He used his code on the lock. The door slid open. David stepped inside first, hoping desperately that Pocket had hidden somewhere good. But even as he thought it, he heard the familiar chirping from the balcony and oh, stay hidden. Please stay hidden. The dragons pushed past him, spreading through his small apartment. The queen went straight for the balcony door. She could see through the glass. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle. David moved without thinking. He got between her and the door. Wait. Just wait. Move aside, human. Please. Don't scare her. She's small. She doesn't understand what's happening. The queen's eyes narrowed. Her? You refer to the presence on your balcony as her? You have seen my daughter. Too late to take it back now. David nodded. I didn't know she was your daughter. I thought she was a lost pet. I've been feeding her, keeping her safe. I would never hurt her, I swear. For a long moment, the queen just stared at him. David couldn't read her expression. Anger? Relief? Disbelief? Then she pushed past him and opened the balcony door. Pocket sat in her little shelter, the one David had built for her. She poked her head out when the door opened, chirping happily. Then she saw the large dragons and froze. Lissa, the queen said softly, my sweet child, I have been searching for you. Pocket, Lissa, whoever she was, didn't move. Her golden eyes darted between her mother and David. She made a small, scared sound. The queen took a step onto the balcony. Come, daughter. It is time to go home. Lissa scrambled backward. She chirped frantically, pressing herself against the railing. Away from her mother. Away from the other dragons. David's heart broke. He stepped onto the balcony, moving slowly. Hey, Pocket. It's okay. Nobody's going to hurt you. Immediately, Lissa ran to him. She climbed up his leg, her claws digging through his work pants. David picked her up, cradling her against his chest. She burrowed into his jacket, trying to hide. The queen stared. Behind her, the other dragons made sounds of shock. One of them, an older male with silver-tipped scales, spoke in their language. David didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Disbelief. She comes to you, the queen said quietly. My daughter, who has not seen me in weeks, runs to a human instead of her mother. I've been taking care of her, David explained, stroking Lissa's scales. She was trembling. Every day. She shows up, I feed her, we spend time together. I didn't know what she was. I just knew she needed help. You have been caring for a dragon, Hatchling, for weeks. The queen's voice was flat. Feeding her, sheltering her, and you claim you did not know what she was. I've never seen a dragon before. I thought she was some kind of exotic lizard. Maybe someone's pet that got loose. The silver-tipped dragon spoke again in their language. The queen responded sharply. An argument broke out among the dragons. David caught a few words. Impossible. Manipulation. Bond. The queen turned back to him. I am Queen Sereth of the Draconian Empire. This hatchling is Princess Lissa, my only child and heir to the throne. She has been missing for 3 weeks. Our entire fleet has been searching for her. And you claim you simply found her and decided to keep her as a pet. Not as a pet, as a friend. She was hungry. She was alone. What was I supposed to do, ignore her? Yes, Sereth said bluntly. That is exactly what any sensible being would do. Dragons are apex predators. Our young are dangerous even in their hatchling stage. They could kill a human with one bite. And yet you took her into your home without fear. David looked down at Lissa, who had poked her head out of his jacket. She looked up at him with those golden eyes, making soft chirping sounds. The same sound she made every evening when he came home from work. She's not dangerous, David said. She's just a kid. Sereth's expression shifted. Something like wonder crossed her face. You truly believe that? Because it's true. Look at her. She's scared and confused. She doesn't understand why all these big dragons are here. The queen reached out slowly. Lissa, daughter, do you not recognize me? Lissa chirped and pressed closer to David. Sereth's hand dropped. For just a moment, the powerful queen looked lost. She has bonded with you. In 3 weeks, she has formed a bond stronger than the one she has with her own mother. I didn't mean for that to happen. I know. Sereth stepped back. General Rothack, secure the human. Both he and my daughter will come with us to the flagship. We have much to discuss. Wait, what? I haven't done anything wrong. You have harbored the crown princess of the Draconian Empire without reporting it. That alone is grounds for investigation. I didn't know she was a princess. I thought she was a stray. Rothack, the silver-tipped dragon, moved forward. Please cooperate, human. The queen wishes to speak with you further. No harm will come to you if you comply. David looked down at Lissa. She had fallen asleep in his arms, exhausted from stress. Her small body radiated warmth, her breathing slow and steady. He'd promised her he would take care of her. But how could he do that against an entire dragon empire? Can I at least grab some things? My comm unit, some clothes? Sereth nodded. You have 5 minutes. David packed quickly, his mind racing. What had he gotten himself into? He'd just been trying to help a hungry creature. Now he was being taken by aliens to answer questions about kidnapping a princess he didn't know existed. He grabbed a photo of Hannah from his desk. If something went wrong, if he didn't come back, he wanted to remember why he'd been working so hard. Why everything mattered. Lissa woke up as he moved. She looked around the apartment, chirping sadly. Did she understand she wouldn't be coming back here? It's okay, David whispered. I'm right here. I won't leave you. Even if keeping that promise meant facing a Dragon Queen's judgment. The flagship Darkwing was bigger than any structure David had ever seen. The docking bay alone could have held his entire apartment building. Dragons moved through the corridors in both their true forms and humanoid shapes, all of them stopping to stare as Sereth led him deeper into the ship. Lissa hadn't left his arms since they boarded. She clung to him, occasionally peeking out her own kind and then hiding again. David's arms ached from carrying her, but he didn't complain. She was terrified. He couldn't let her down now. They entered a massive chamber. The ceiling stretched up so high David couldn't see the top. Platforms ringed the walls at different heights. Dragons perched on them, dozens of them, all watching as he was brought before them at a trial. This was a trial, Sarith took her place on the highest platform, shifting to her full dragon form. Her wings spread wide, her tail coiled beneath her. She looked every inch the queen she was. Powerful, ancient, absolutely in control. David Chun. Her voice boomed through the chamber. You stand accused of harboring the crown princess without notification to her family or the empire. How do you answer? David swallowed hard. I didn't know who she was. I thought she was a lost animal. I was just trying to help. Murmurs rippled through the assembled dragons. Some sounded skeptical, others curious. An older dragon stepped forward from one of the lower platforms. His scales were pale gray, marked with scars from old battles. Your Majesty, if I may, the human story seems implausible. How could he not recognize a dragon hatchling? They are distinct from any Earth species. I've never seen a dragon before, David said, directing his words to Sarith. My planet joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. I've spent my whole life on Earth or in orbit around it. The only aliens I've met are the traders who come to the station, and none of them were dragons. Another dragon spoke up, this one younger with bright red scales. Then he is ignorant. But ignorance does not explain the bond. Hatchlings do not bond with other species. It is not in our nature. He must have used some form of manipulation. What manipulation? David shot back. I fed her. I gave her a safe place to sleep. I talked to her. That's all. That's all. Sarith's voice carried a strange note. Human, do you not understand what you describe? You provided sustenance, shelter, and companionship to a creature not of your species. Why? Because she needed help. Why else? Silence fell over the chamber. The dragon stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language, which in a way he had. Rodhak moved to stand beside Sarith's platform. Your Majesty, this is the key issue. Dragons do not help other species without expectation of gain. We are apex predators. We care for our own kind because they are our own. This human seems to suggest he aided the princess out of pure altruism. Is that so unusual? David asked. For dragons, yes. We do not understand the concept of helping without reason. What did you hope to gain by caring for the princess? David looked down at Lissa. She had fallen asleep again, exhausted from all the stress. Her small body was warm against his chest. Her breathing tickled his neck. I didn't hope to gain anything. I just didn't want her to be hungry or scared. That's what you do when someone needs help. You help them. Even if they are not your species, the old Scar Dragon asked. Even if there is no benefit to you, especially then. Look, I don't know how dragons work, but humans, we form bonds with everything. Other humans, animals, even plants sometimes. We adopt creatures that aren't like us and treat them as family. It's just what we do. Sarith shifted to her humanoid form and descended from her platform. She walked across the chamber floor until she stood directly in front of David. Her golden eyes studied him intently. Show me your hands. David extended one hand, keeping the other supporting Lissa. Sarith took it, turning it over to examine his palm. His skin was rough from years of construction work. Calluses marked his fingers. A fresh scar ran across his thumb from last week's injury. These are the hands of a laborer, Sarith said. You work with them. They cause you pain. Yet you used these same hands to gently care for my daughter. Yes. Why? I already told you. She needed help. Sarith released his hand. I am beginning to understand. Humans are pack-bonding creatures. You form attachments easily. You extend your protection to beings outside your species instinctively. This is not manipulation or calculation. It is simply your nature. The red-scaled dragon protested. Your Majesty, surely you cannot believe this human acted without ulterior motive. He must have known the princess was valuable. Perhaps he planned to ransom her. David laughed bitterly. With what communication? I don't have access to dragon channels. I didn't even know dragons were searching for a missing hatchling. I don't watch the news. I work, I eat, I sleep, I work again. That's my life. He speaks truth, another dragon said. This one had deep blue scales. I have observed humans extensively. They live in small boxes, work long hours for minimal compensation, and find joy in the smallest things. A pet, a plant, a picture on their wall. They bond with anything that shows them affection. That's a bit reductive, David muttered, but not entirely wrong. Sarith returned to her platform, but remained in humanoid form. David Shun, I will ask you directly. Did you harm my daughter in any way during the week she was in your care? No, never. Did you restrict her freedom? Prevent her from leaving? No. She came and went through the maintenance tunnels. I thought she lived somewhere else and just visited me for food. Did you know she was the crown princess of the Draconian Empire? Not until you broke down my door. Sereth nodded slowly. I believe you. Your ignorance is evident. But that creates a new problem. My daughter has bonded with you. She trusts you more than she trusts her own kind. This is unprecedented. I do not know how to proceed. Send him back to his dwelling, the scarred dragon suggested. Take the princess with us. The bond will fade in time. Lissa woke up at that moment, as if she understood the suggestion. She chirped frantically, clinging tighter to David. Her claws dug into his jacket. I don't think she wants that, David said quietly. She is a child. Children do not always know what is best for them. Sereth's voice was firm, but David heard the pain underneath. She must return to the Empire. She has duties, a destiny. She cannot remain with a human. Then what happens to me? Do I just go home and forget about her? That would be the simplest solution. David looked down at Lissa. She stared up at him with those golden eyes, making soft sounds, trusting him to protect her. He made a promise. On his balcony, 2 months ago, he promised to take care of her no matter what. No. Sereth's eyes widened. No, I won't abandon her. She's scared and confused. Everyone here is a stranger to her. I'm the only familiar thing she is right now. If you take her away from me, you'll traumatize her. You dare tell me how to care for my own daughter. Sereth's voice carried warning. I'm not telling you anything. I'm asking you to think about what's best for her. Not for the Empire. Not for politics. For Lissa. Rodhak stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps the human has a point. The princess has clearly formed an attachment. Breaking it suddenly could cause psychological harm. What do you suggest, General? That I let a human raise my daughter? Not raise, but perhaps transition. Allow them time together while we teach the princess about her heritage. Eventually, she will understand her place is with us. Sereth was quiet for a long moment. The assembled dragons waited. David could feel the weight of their attention on him. One human against an entire empire. It should have been terrifying. It was terrifying. But Lissa needed him. Finally, Sereth spoke. David Shun, I offer you an agreement. You will remain aboard this ship as my daughter's guardian. You will help her transition back to Draconian life. In exchange, I will ensure your needs are met. Food, shelter, compensation for your lost work. When Lissa is ready, when she can function among her own kind without distress, you will return to your life. David thought about his apartment, his job, and his school tuition that he still needed to pay. I have a sister. She's in medical school. I send her money every month. Can you guarantee that continues? You bargain with the Dragon Queen? Someone gasped. Sereth raised a hand for silence. Your loyalty to family is commendable. Yes, your sister's education will be funded. Fully. Considerate payment for the care you have already provided. David's eyes widened. Fully? Do you know how much medical school costs? I am the ruler of an empire that spans 17 systems. I can afford one human's education. Sereth's expression softened slightly. You have protected my daughter when she was vulnerable. That deserves reward. I don't want a reward. I just want to make sure she's okay. I know. That is why I am allowing this. Any other being who harbored the crown princess would face severe consequences. But you acted out of compassion, not greed. The dragons do not understand compassion well. Perhaps it is time we learned. She descended from her platform and approached David again. This time, she reached out to touch Lissa's head. The hatchling flinched but didn't run. My daughter, you are safe now. This human will stay with you. Together, we will help you remember who you are. Lissa chirped softly and nuzzled against Sereth's hand. It was a small gesture, but David saw the relief in the queen's eyes. Come, Sereth said. I will show you to your quarters. They will be far more comfortable than your previous dwelling. As David followed the queen through the massive ship, Lissa still in his arms, he wondered what exactly he'd gotten himself into. Guardian to a dragon princess, living aboard an alien flagship. His whole life had changed because he'd fed a hungry creature on his balcony. But looking down at Lissa, seeing her finally relax and start to fall asleep again, David knew he'd made the right choice. Even if it complicated everything, The quarters Sareth assigned David were larger than his entire apartment had been. A bedroom with an actual bed, not the thin mattress he'd been sleeping on. A sitting area with furniture designed for both human and dragon scales. A balcony, because apparently Sareth had noticed Lissa's fondness for them, that overlooked the ship's internal garden. "This is too much," David said, looking around in amazement. "This is standard guest quarters," Sareth replied. "You are now part of the princess's household. You will be provided for accordingly." Lissa had finally left David's arms to explore the new space. She chirped excitedly, climbing on furniture and investigating every corner. It was the first time David had seen her truly energetic since they'd been brought aboard. "She seems happy," Sareth observed. There was something wistful in her voice. She just needed to feel safe again. Safe. Yes. Sareth moved to the balcony, looking out at the gardens below. "I must ask you something, David Chun. During the weeks my daughter stayed with you, did she ever try to communicate? Beyond the sound she makes?" "No, just chirping and purring." "Why?" "Because she can speak. Not perfectly. Her vocal development is still progressing, but she knows our language. Yet with you, she reverted to infant sounds." David frowned. Maybe she was scared? Or confused? Perhaps. Or perhaps she understood that you responded better to simple communication. Dragons are highly intelligent, even as hatchlings. She adapted her behavior to suit her situation. "You're saying she manipulated me. I am saying she survived. In an environment she did not understand, surrounded by beings she had never encountered, she found a way to earn protection and care. That is not manipulation. That is intelligence." Sareth turned to look at him. "My daughter is clever. She takes after her mother in that regard." David watched Lissa investigate a large cushion. She climbed on top of it and promptly fell asleep, exhausted from the day's events. "She's just a kid. She shouldn't have to be clever to survive." "No, she should not." Sareth's expression grew sad. "I failed her. I allowed her curiosity to put her in danger. I will not make that mistake again." Over the following days, David settled into a strange new routine. Wake up in luxurious quarters. Eat breakfast in the communal dining hall where dragons stared at him. Spend the day with Lissa, helping her adjust. Sleep and repeat. Sareth visited daily, trying to reconnect with her daughter. The sessions were awkward at first. Lissa would hide behind David whenever her mother entered. But gradually, slowly, she began responding to Sareth's presence. "She spoke yesterday," Sareth told David during one visit. 3 words. "Mother. Here. Safe." It was the first time she addressed me since I found her. That's good, right? Is progress. Sareth sat down on one of the dragon-sized chairs. In her humanoid form, she looked almost tired. "I've been thinking about your people. Humans. The dragons have known of your species for 50 of your years, yet we have never truly understood you. We're not that complicated. You are endlessly complicated. You form bonds with creatures that could kill you. You work yourselves to exhaustion for family members. You protect those weaker than yourselves without thought of gain. These concepts are foreign to dragon nature." David shrugged. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Having different perspectives. Perhaps not. Sareth was quiet for a moment. "I have made a decision. When Lissa is ready, when she can exist comfortably among her own kind, you will not be sent away immediately. Instead, I am creating a new position. Cultural ambassador. You will help bridge the gap between humans and dragons. I'm a construction worker. I don't know anything about diplomacy. You know about compassion. You know about caring for others. That is more valuable than any diplomatic training." Sareth smiled slightly. "Besides, my military advisors have been complaining that we do not understand human behavior. Having someone who can explain it will be useful." "You're serious about this?" "Completely. You have already proven your worth. My daughter is alive because you helped her. The least I can do is ensure you have a future that honors that service." David thought about his old life. The construction job he'd never enjoyed. The tiny apartment. The constant stress about money. What about Hannah? My sister. Her education will continue to be funded. Additionally, I will arrange for her to have the best medical training available. If she wishes, she can study under our own healers. Dragon medicine is quite advanced. She'd love that. David smiled, imagining Hannah's reaction. His little sister studying with aliens. She'd always been the smart one in the family. Can I contact her? She must be worried. I've been gone for days. Of course. I will have a communication device brought to you. One capable of reaching Earth. That evening, David made the call. Hannah's face appeared on the screen, her eyes red from crying. David, well, thank God. Where are you? Nobody would tell me anything. They just said you'd been taken by the Dragon Fleet and that you were okay, but I didn't believe them and I thought you were dead. And Hannah, breathe. I'm Phoenix. She took several shaky breaths. You're fine? You're with dragons and you're fine. It's a long story. Remember how I told you I was feeding a stray on my balcony? The cat thing you wouldn't show me. Turns out she was a dragon princess. Hannah stared at him. You're joking. I'm really not. It took an hour to explain everything. Hannah went through several emotions. Disbelief, anger that he'd hidden it from her, amazement at the situation, worry about what would happen next. So you're living on an alien spaceship now, taking care of dragon royalty, Hannah summarized. David, your life is insane. Tell me about it. And they're paying for my school. All of it. Plus they offered you advanced medical training if you want it. Hannah was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the opportunity. You've worked too hard to pass this up. But what about you? Are you safe there? David glanced over at Lissa, who was playing with the toys Sarah had brought. Yeah, I'm safe. Different, but safe. After the call ended, David felt both relieved and homesick. He missed Earth, missed the familiar sounds of the station, missed the simplicity of his old life, even if it had been hard. But he'd made a promise, and he was starting to understand that promises mattered more than comfort. Weeks passed. Lissa grew more comfortable around other dragons. She started spending time with Sereth without needing David present. She began speaking more, mixing dragon words with the English she'd picked up from David. David, teach me this, she would say, showing Sereth something he'd explained. Or, Mother, look what I can do, demonstrating a skill she'd learned. Slowly, she was bridging the two parts of her life, human influence and dragon heritage. Rothack visited one afternoon while David was teaching Lissa a card game. The old general watched for a few minutes before speaking. The Queen has told me about your new position, Cultural Ambassador. Many of the council members think it is foolish. They believe humans have nothing to teach dragons. What do you think? David asked, not looking up from the cards. I think you saved our princess when we could not. I think you showed compassion that our species rarely demonstrates. I think perhaps we have much to learn from your people. Lissa played a card triumphantly. I win. You win, David agreed, smiling. Good job. Rothack shifted his weight. May I ask you something personal? Why did you not ask for more reward? The Queen would have given you wealth, status, power. You asked only for your sister's education and permission to care for the princess. David gathered up the cards, thinking about how to answer. I don't need wealth or power. I just need to know the people I care about are okay. Hannah's education was the only thing I couldn't provide on my own. Everything else. He shrugged. I can handle everything else. You are content with simple things. Simple things are usually the important ones. Rothack made a sound that might have been agreement. The Queen chose well when she decided to keep you close. You will make an excellent ambassador. I hope so. I still don't really know what I'm doing. None of us do, really. We simply do our best and hope it is sufficient. That night, after Lissa had fallen asleep, Sereth came to visit. She looked different, less formal, more relaxed. She called me mother today without prompting, Sereth said softly. 3 times, and she meant it. I could tell. She's remembering who she is. Thanks to you. Sereth sat on the balcony railing, looking at the stars beyond the ship. I've been a queen for 6 centuries. I have commanded fleets, ruled systems, made decisions that affected billions of lives. But I could not help my own daughter when she needed me. You did that. A human construction worker with no resources and no power. You did what I could not. You would have done the same if you'd found her first. Would I? I do not know. Dragons are not gentle creatures. We do not nurture easily. Perhaps I would have been too harsh, too demanding. Perhaps she needed the softness you provided. David didn't know what to say to that. He just sat beside her, both of them watching the stars in silence. Thank you, Sereth said finally, for saving her, for staying with her, for teaching her that kindness exists in the universe. You're welcome. They sat together until the artificial night cycle began. 2 beings from different worlds, united by a small dragon who had brought them together. 6 months after being brought aboard the Darkwing. David stood in the diplomatic chamber, watching Lyssa address a gathering of human and dragon officials. She'd grown, not physically, though she was larger now, but in confidence, in understanding. My people and yours have much to learn from each other, Lyssa said in clear English before switching to the dragon language. Her voice carried both languages equally well now. I have lived among humans. I have seen their compassion, their ability to care for others beyond their own kind. This is not weakness, as some believe. It is strength. David smiled. She'd written the speech herself with only minimal help from him. Sareth stood beside him in her humanoid form, and he could see the pride in her eyes. She has grown wise, Sareth murmured. She was always wise. She just needed time to find her voice. The speech concluded to polite applause from both species. Lyssa bounded over to them afterward, her scales gleaming with excitement. How did I do? Perfect, David said. You honored both cultures, Sareth added. Well done, my daughter. Lyssa beamed at the praise. She was still young, still had centuries of growing ahead of her, but she'd found her footing, found her place between two worlds. Later, in the gardens, David walked with both of them. It had become a routine. Every few days, the three of them would walk together, talking about everything and nothing. Politics and stories, dragon history and human jokes. They'd become something neither species had a word for. Not quite a family in the traditional sense, but close. The council has approved the cultural exchange program, Sareth said. Starting next month, human students will study on dragon worlds. Dragon hatchlings will attend Earth schools. It is a beginning. A good beginning, David agreed. This would not have happened without you. Without what you taught us. David shook his head. I just fed a hungry kid on my balcony. Everything else grew from that. Exactly. Sareth stopped walking and turned to face him. The smallest act of kindness created ripples that spread across species. You demonstrated what we had thought impossible. That beings can care for each other without calculation, without expectation of return, simply because it is the right thing to do. Lyssa chirped and climbed onto David's shoulders, a position she'd never quite grown out of despite being too large for it now. Her weight made him stagger slightly. Getting big there, princess. Not as big as mother. Nobody's as big as your mother. Sareth laughed, the sound still surprising David, even after months of hearing it. Dragons didn't laugh often, but Sareth had learned to around them. Hannah arrived the next day on a transport ship. She'd finished her initial medical training and was coming to study dragon healing techniques. David met her at the docking bay, pulling her into a tight hug. Look at you, Hannah said, stepping back. You've got color in your face. You look healthy. Happy, even. I am happy. It's weird, right? I thought I'd hate living on an alien ship, but it's good here. And this is the famous dragon that started everything. Hannah looked at Lyssa, who was hiding shyly behind David. This is Princess Lyssa. Lyssa, this is my sister Hannah. Lyssa peeked out and chirped a greeting. Hannah knelt down to her level. Nice to meet you, Princess. Your friend here has told me a lot about you. David tells me about you, too. You fix people. I try to. Maybe you can help me learn dragon medicine. Lyssa brightened at that. Yes, I show you. As Lyssa dragged Hannah off to the medical wing, David felt a weight lift from his chest that he hadn't realized was there. The two most important beings in his life were now in the same place. Safe, happy, together. Rodhak found him in the observation deck that evening. The old general had become something like a friend over the months. They played strategy games together, shared meals, talked about everything from military tactics to human sports. You have changed us, Rodhak said without preamble. The entire dragon culture. We are not the same species we were a year ago. I didn't do anything special. That is where you were wrong. You did something extraordinarily special. You showed kindness to a creature you did not understand. No calculation, no scheme, just pure compassion. Dragons do not have a concept for this. We had to create new words in our language to describe what you did. David raised his eyebrows. New words? Heart bond is the closest translation. A connection formed not by blood or duty, but by choice and care. It is becoming popular among the younger dragons. Some are even seeking out other species to form these bonds with. That's good, isn't it? It is revolutionary. 5 centuries from now, Historians will look back at this time as the moment dragon culture fundamentally changed. And it all started because you fed a lost hatchling on your balcony. David looked out at the stars. Somewhere out, there was Earth. His old apartment. His old life. It felt like a dream now. Something that had happened to someone else. Do you regret it? Rodhack asked. Giving up your simple life? Sometimes I miss it. The simplicity. Knowing exactly what each day would bring. David thought about those long shifts at the construction site. The exhaustion. The worry about money. But no, I don't regret it. This is better. Harder in some ways, but better. You have purpose now. I always had purpose. Taking care of Hannah. Making sure she could follow her dreams. That was my purpose. David smiled. Now I just have a bigger family to take care of. Months continued to pass. The cultural exchange program launched successfully. David found himself mediating disputes between humans and dragons, explaining cultural differences, building bridges one conversation at a time. It was exhausting work. It was also the most meaningful thing he'd ever done. Lissa grew into her role as a bridge between species. She spent time in both dragon and human education programs, learning both histories, both cultures. She became fluent in 17 human languages and 4 dragon dialects. Whenever there was tension between the species, she would step in with her unique perspective. I am proof that understanding is possible, she would say. I was raised by a human and a dragon. Both taught me valuable lessons. Both made me who I am. Sereth established a new order within the dragon hierarchy. The compassionate wing, they called it. Dragons who chose to study other species not as subjects, but as equals. To learn from them rather than conquer them. Rodhack became its first general. David became its first human advisor. 2 years after feeding a hungry creature on his balcony. David stood in the assembly hall of the Draconian Empire. Thousands of dragons filled the space, along with hundreds of humans and other species. The Galactic Council had called this session to discuss the new alliance between Earth and the Dragon worlds. David didn't speak at the session. That honor went to others more eloquent and experienced. But afterward, a young human diplomat approached him. You're David Shun, aren't you? The one who found the princess. I am. I studied your case in my xenodiplomacy course. They teach it as an example of how individual actions can change galactic politics. How one person's choice to be kind can shift the course of history. David felt embarrassed. I just did what anyone would do. But that's exactly the point they make in the course. You thought it was normal, obvious. But to the dragons, it was revolutionary. You showed them a completely different way of thinking. And now look. She gestured at the assembly hall. Species working together. Dragons learning compassion. All because you fed a hungry hatchling. After she left, Lissa found him. She was nearly full-grown now, though still young by dragon standards. Her scales had darkened to a deep black with veins of gold running through them. She was beautiful, powerful, but to David, she would always be the small creature who chirped on his balcony. You look troubled, Lissa said, just thinking about how strange life is. 2 years ago, I was a construction worker. Nobody important. Now people are studying me in classes. You were always important. You just did not know it yet. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. Lissa nudged him gently with her head. From 2 parents who taught me that strength comes in many forms. Physical power from my mother. Compassion and kindness from you. I'm not your parent, Lissa. No, but you are family. You raised me when I was lost. Kept me safe when I was vulnerable. Taught me that the universe can be kind. That is parenting, is it not? David felt his eyes water. Yeah, I guess it is. Sereth joined them, having finished her own diplomatic meetings. She looked tired but satisfied. The council has approved the next phase. Full integration of human and dragon colonies. Shared stations. Joint military operations. We are truly allies now. Because of Lissa, David said. Because of you, Sereth corrected. Lissa was the bridge, but you built the foundation. You showed us that caring for others is not weakness. That protecting those different from ourselves is not foolishness. These are lessons dragons needed to learn. She placed a hand on his shoulder. I have watched you these past years. Watched you work tirelessly to help 2 species understand each other. You ask for nothing. You expect nothing. You simply do what you believe is right. That is true leadership. I'm just trying to help. Exactly. And in trying to help, you have changed the galaxy. Sarah smiled. The construction worker who fed a lost hatchling is now one of the most influential beings in known space. How does that feel? David looked at Lissa, then at Sereth, then out at the stars beyond the station windows. He thought about his old apartment, his sister studying advanced medicine, the cultural exchange, students learning about each other, the treaties being signed, the friendships being formed. All of it had started with one simple choice: feed a hungry creature on his balcony. It feels right, David said finally. Overwhelming sometimes, scary often, but right. Good, Sarah said, because we are not finished. This is only the beginning. There are hundreds of species in the galaxy. Most of them see dragons as threats. As conquerors, you have shown us another path. Now, we must show the rest of the universe. No pressure, then. Lissa laughed. We will face it together. The three of us. The family that should not exist, but does anyway. And they did. Years passed. Decades. David grew older, while Lissa and Sereth barely changed, their dragon lifespans measuring time differently. But the bond between them never weakened. If anything, it grew stronger. They faced challenges. Species who distrusted the new alliance. Dragons who rejected the cultural changes. Humans who feared giving dragons too much influence. Through it all, David remained steady. A voice of reason. A reminder that kindness could triumph over suspicion. He never returned to construction work. Never went back to that small apartment. His life had taken a path he could never have imagined. But standing on the observation deck of the Darkwing, watching ships from 100 Worlds dock at the newly built Unity Station, David knew he'd made the right choices. Lissa stood beside him, full-grown and magnificent. Sereth was in a council meeting, negotiating with yet another species about joining the growing alliance. Hannah worked in the medical wing, her techniques combining the best of human and dragon healing. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not fed me that night? Lissa asked. Sometimes. Probably would have stayed a construction worker. Lived a simple life. Not a bad life, just different. Would you change it? If you could go back. David thought about it honestly. The stress, the danger, the constant pressure of being a bridge between species. Then he thought about the friendships he'd made, the lives he'd touched, the future he'd helped build. No, I wouldn't change it. Lissa made a satisfied sound. Good, because I would not trade you for anything. You saved my life. Then you saved my mother's heart. Then you saved my entire species from ourselves. You are the most important human in dragon history. I just fed a hungry cat on my balcony. You fed a dragon princess. And in doing so, you taught dragons to feed others in turn, to care, to protect, to love beyond our own kind. Lissa looked at him with those golden eyes that had first captured his attention 2 years ago. You are extraordinary, David Chun, even if you are too humble to see it. David smiled and reached up to scratch behind her ear plate, the spot that still made her purr like she had when she was small. Some things never changed. Thanks, Pocket. Still calling me that. Always. Outside the observation window, the universe stretched infinite and full of possibility. Somewhere out there, other beings were making small choices, showing small kindnesses, creating ripples that would spread farther than they could imagine. David had learned that lesson well. Every act of compassion mattered. Every moment of care counted. Every time you help someone, anyone, anything, you change the universe just a little bit. That he'd just been lucky enough to help someone who could change it a lot in return. But really, David thought that was the secret. You never knew which small kindness would matter most. So you had to treat them all as if they could change everything, because sometimes they did. How can you know? Because you were her mother. You would know if she had passed. Dragon bonds do not break, even in death. Sereth wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. 3 weeks was a long time for a hatchling to survive alone. Dragons were powerful, but young ones were vulnerable. They needed food, protection, guidance. What if she is hurt? Sereth whispered. What if she is scared and calling for me, and I cannot hear her? Then we will find her and bring her home. Rothak promised. The search intensified. Every human station, every settlement, every ship got scanned again. The dragon fleet spread out like a net, trying to catch any sign of the missing princess. Thousands of dragons, hundreds of ships, all focused on one goal: find the hatchling. Days passed. Hope began to fade. Some of the younger dragons whispered that perhaps the princess was dead, that they should perform the mourning rites and move on. Sareth heard the whispers and ignored them. She would not mourn until she saw her daughter's body with her own eyes. My queen, a scan officer called out on the 5th day. We have detected an unusual thermal signature. Residential sector, Station 12. It matches hatchling physiology. Sareth's heart stopped, then began racing. Show me. The display zoomed in on a section of a human station. Rows of apartments. Thousands of humans living in small boxes stacked on top of each other. And somewhere in that maze, a heat signature that could only be a dragon. Prepare a boarding party, Sareth commanded. I'm going personally. My queen, it could be a false reading. Perhaps we should send scouts first. No. Sareth's eyes blazed with hope and fear. If my daughter is there, she will see me first. No one else. Rodhack assembled the best warriors. They armed themselves not for battle, but for extraction. The goal was to retrieve the princess, not to start a war. But if anyone had harmed her, if anyone had imprisoned her or experimented on her, Sareth would show them what dragon vengeance truly meant. The transport ship descended toward Station 12. Sareth watched through the viewport as they approached the residential sector. So many humans, so many potential threats. Her daughter had been alone among them for 3 weeks. What had they done to her? The ship docked. Sareth led the way out, her massive form barely fitting through the station corridors. Humans scattered before her, screaming and running. She ignored them. Only one thing mattered. The signature is coming from apartment 317. A soldier reported. Sareth moved faster. Her claws scraped against the metal floor. Her tail knocked over objects in a narrow hallway. She did not care. Lissa was close. She could feel it now. That bond Rodhack had mentioned. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat just out of sync with her own. Apartment 317. A plain door. Locked. Sareth did not bother with a lock. She tore the door off its hinges.